Assalamu alaikum friends, how are you all? I hope you are good. Okay, so in this video we are going to study sociology, paper pattern, and how to attempt the questions with the help of marking scheme. So the paper that I have chosen is October-November 2022 P1 variant 2. So let's check out the paper first. I have told you about this application in my previous video, and I have already selected this subject and kept it saved in my list. Okay, so it's variant 12. Okay, so let's study about the paper pattern first. So you have round about 2 hours to attempt this paper. So a lot of time you have for this, and you just have to attempt only 2 questions. From section A, you will be getting one question, and that is a compulsory question, and you have no choice. Whereas you need to attempt another one question either from section B or from section C. Okay, so you have one question from section B and one question from section C, and you just have to attempt any one. So you have a choice apart from this compulsory question. Okay, so the total marks for this paper is 80, and the marks of each questions are mentioned in front of the question. Okay, so as you can see that section A, theory and methods, this is the most important chapter in sociology, and it's the compulsory question as well. So you will be given a source, and you need to thoroughly read out the source, and if it says that you have to identify something from the source, then you have to write it from the source. Okay, you cannot write it on your own. Okay, so you have A, B, C, D, E, F, G parts, and the marks are being divided from 2 till 15. So 15 will be, you can say, an extensive essay that you are going to write. Okay, so we are going to further discuss it in our later video. Now in the next section over here, they have already clearly mentioned it to you that you have to answer either question 2 or question 3. So from a choice of 2, you have to do just one. Okay, so basically in sociology, you have a choice that you can prepare for any of the one section, but again extensively and thoroughly. These two are my favorite words because this is what sociology requires: thorough study, and the course is very extensive, so you need to thoroughly understand the concepts and memorize the things as well. So you can either go for like once you are preparing, you can either go for section B or you can choose section C. It depends on you. And but first if you are doing self-study, you need to first you can say study both of the sections, and then you can choose whichever you find it easy. But according to my opinion, and according to my observation, students find section B much easier as compared to section C. Because section C is, you can say, it's a bit technical in concepts, whereas section B is, you can say, it relates to things that are, you can say, within our surrounding, within our culture. So they find section B a bit easier. So sociology students who are out there listening to my video, they might know what I'm telling them. Like, it's about the culture, how culture varies between societies and societies. It's about how our identities are being shaped, what is gender, how girls and boys are, you can say, socialized into their appropriate gender roles, etc. So this section B is pretty more easier as compared to section C. So the students that I teach sociology, I basically go with section B because the students also find this section easier. Okay, so this is basically P1 that we are going to thoroughly discuss in our video. So let's move on and check what you can say, how we can attempt this paper. So I have created a PowerPoint slide to explain to my students. So let's move on to the slideshow view. Okay, so let me tell you again, we are first focusing on P1, okay? And I have told you about the detailed description on P1 questions and which questions you need to attempt. Okay, so section A, theory and methods, the compulsory question. You just have one question in it and you have to attempt it. So first of all, you are going to read out the source A, very carefully. So it says that some sociologists prefer to look at society as a whole and take a macro approach, while others prefer a micro approach, where they can record the thoughts and feelings of individuals. So you have studied sociology, okay? So let's first circle out the main points. What is a macro approach? Okay, and then a micro approach. As you can see, macro approach means macro, the word macro. Macro means something that is big, okay, and micro means something that is small. Like you can relate it to biology. So microorganisms, which are too small and you cannot see from your eyes. Okay, so micro means small and macro means big. Marketing students can relate it with macro perspectives, and micro perspectives affecting business. Okay, so in sociology, macro approach refers to those sociological approaches that see society as a whole. Okay, they don't consider individual needs and wants of individuals, okay, the people. So this is basically what the macro approach. It involves if we are studying it through you can say, if you are studying it through research perspective. So macro approach is usually followed by positivists because they see society as a whole, okay, and they see society as general. The factors affecting society is general, okay, and the results that are obtained, they can be easily generalized, okay, and the concepts, you can say the research methods that they use, okay, they are basically applied to the vast population, such as questionnaires. They take a population sample of round about 200 to 500, okay, and the results that are obtained are generalized, okay, like the results are applicable to the whole population, ठीक है. सेलेक्ट हमने किया कुछ सैम्पल 200 का, 250, 300, 400, 500 का, लेकिन वो जो रिजल्ट्स हैं दे आर एप्लीकेबल टू द होल पॉपुलेशन. Whereas if we see the micro approach, that is basically the interpretivist approach. They focus on individuals, ठीक है, कि जो individuals हैं उनकी क्या कस्टमाइज व्यूज़ हैं, ठीक है, what do they think, how do they feel, ठीक है. So micro approach is, you can say, a more customized approach, and obviously the results cannot be generalized, ठीक है. मेरी जो थिंकिंग है, ठीक है, मेरी जो फीलिंग्स हैं, मेरे जो थॉट्स हैं, they might or they can be different from the thoughts of yours, okay. So my results, if somebody conducts a research on me, so whatever I feel, my research findings will be different as compared to yours. So interpretivist, they focus on customized things. Okay, so it's basically known as a micro approach. Okay, next, I hope you have clearly understood through this summarized view of positivist and interpretivist, because if your concept is not clear, so you are going to struggle. So okay, so you need to first clearly understand what is a macro approach, who follows this approach, okay, and how does it differ with a micro approach, and who follows a micro approach. Then moving on to the second para, taking a micro approach, a researcher began to investigate why young people smoke. After discovering a younger relative had become a smoker, the researcher was interested to learn why young people start to smoke and how it affects their identity. The researcher's first task was to gain access to a sample. So it's basically, the source is basically telling you about interpretivist approach. So if you figure out this word micro approach, the thing will click in your mind that yes, it's talking about interpretivist approach. Then all of the things that relates to the interpretivist approach, such as no generalization, okay, validity, accurate data, qualitative research, these things are going to click to your mind. So now the basic purpose of the research was that a researcher want to investigate that why young people smoke. Okay, so he came across a guy, okay, who was young and who became a smoker. So now the researcher wanted to learn that why young people smoke. So the factor was that why do young people smoke. So then he began his research, and the first step was to find out a sample. Okay, now moving on to the third para. Finding a sample is not always easy if there is not a sampling frame, as young people are unlikely to want to speak to professional researcher with very different social characteristics. A snowball sample was used. Once a sample was gained, an overt participant observation was conducted. Okay, so from the last paragraph, the third paragraph, you are going to find a lot of things that are basically that your upcoming questions are going to ask you. Sampling frame, you should know what is a sampling frame. And then what other things that you can highlight is that young people, they are not open to research. Okay, because young people, you can say they are like मतलब उनकी अपनी दुनिया होती है, एंड अगर कोई आके उनके पर कोई सडनली रिसर्च करे, ठीक है, सो देयर बिहेवियर माइट चेंज. ओके, प्लस ये कि यंग पीपल और एक प्रोफेशनल रिसर्चर, एज डिफरेंस, ठीक है, so the young people might not be that open towards the researcher. Okay, फिर प्लस characteristics different होती हैं young people की, needs, wants, उनकी thoughts, उनकी feelings might differ with that of the researcher. ठीक है, so another thing is the snowball sample. ये क्या होता है, we are going to discuss. And then overt participant observation. So you can see that participant observation आ गया है, and it's an interpretivist approach, it's a micro approach. So yes, it's talking about qualitative research methods. Okay, so from source A, identify two approaches used by sociologists. Okay, so if you have studied the source carefully, so from the source you have to identify what two approaches are used by the sociologist or the researcher. So it's of 2 marks, and if you correctly identify 2 approaches, you are going to easily gain these 2 marks. Okay. So the acceptable responses according to the marking scheme is the macro approach and the micro approach. So basically, if you are a sociologist, okay, you can either go for macro approach, Okay, and you can either go for a micro approach. Acha, it also varies. You can use triangulation if you have studied in sociology. You might have studied. Okay, so it is a different thing where you combine two of the research methods and then conduct your research. But typically, you have two approaches. First is a micro approach, and then you have a macro approach. So you can either choose any one. Then B, identify two types of historical document. So you can see that this is not clearly linked from the source, okay, and it's a sudden question that came out of nowhere. So you have to just tell about the two types and you're going to get 2 marks. Let's check out what can be the two types of historical documents that you can get. Historical documents mean that anything that has happened in the past. So possible responses that the examiner have set might help you gain marks. Diaries, you have personal diaries of people. Then you have either conducted a census, a population census. You might get access to letters, through which you can get informations. You have autobiographies of people, photographs, films. You can find information from photographs or films, newspaper and magazines. So it's a question that came out of nowhere. So you need to link, like from where you can find data that will link you with the past. Okay, so these are the possible responses. So the examiner says 1 mark for each historical document correctly identified up to 2 maximum marks, up to maximum of 2. Okay, so any 2 that you have to identify. You can briefly describe, like if you have chosen diaries. So any one short line describing that you can find out information from personal diaries of people. Okay, and from magazines you can easily find out information. It can be an in-depth information as well. Okay, if like if you see columns, okay, so it's in-depth information that you can get. Okay, now moving on towards the C part. Using information from source A, describe 2 reasons why the researcher chose to use snowball sampling. Now the thing is that it's a 4 marks and you need to tell 2 reasons and you need to describe those 2 reasons. You should know what is a snowball sampling. If you don't know what is a snowball sampling, you will fail in the marks. Okay, let's check out from the marking scheme. There wasn't a sampling frame. Finding a sample is not always easy. Therefore, a snowball sample was the only way to build a sample. So this thing was mentioned in the source that this thing. Let me highlight it for you. Finding a sample is not always easy if there is no sampling frame. So from this line, you figured out that in case if you don't have any sampling frame, you cannot find out the sample. So you can find out, but it will not be easy. So in such cases, you use a snowball sampling method. Okay, so this thing was highlighted in the source. Then it says young people are unlikely to want to speak to a professional researcher. So a snowball sample allows new respondents to accept the researcher because they are introduced via peers. For instance, like this thing was also highlighted, this point, young people, okay, they don't want to speak to, like I basically explained you this thing. It can be age difference, okay, it can be difference in taste, preferences or such things. Okay, so you can target to their peers. Okay, you can easily convince their peers that you can say somehow motivate their friends to take part in the research. Okay, then you have A researcher with very different social characteristics to the sample may find it difficult to recruit respondents and hence a snowball sample is appropriate. ठीक है, ये चीज़ भी बताई हुई थी that the people have different social characteristics. ठीक है, so it's difficult that those respondents are being studied, so snowball sample becomes appropriate in that case. Discovering a younger relative had become a smoker, knowing only one person in the survey population, a snowball sample was the only way to grow the sample. This means that he just figured out one person who became a smoker. Okay? So from this one person, okay, he need to develop the whole sample. Okay? For instance, if one person from our surrounding commits a suicide, okay, so from that one person we need to generate why suicidal cases happens in the whole society, if there are cases. Okay, so from that one person we are deriving that अगर बाकी और cases भी होते हैं suicidal cases in the society, so from that one case we are deriving other we are serving about other people who commit suicide. So you get 2 marks if you identify one reason and then explain it, and you get another 2 marks if you identify one reason and then explain it. Okay, then you have question number 1, part D. Describe 2 strengths of using focus groups in sociological research. It's a random question, so you should know what is a focus group. So it's identified in your marking scheme that respondents are likely to feel more comfortable in a group and may open up, talk more freely and in depth. So if you have people around you, okay, which makes a group, yeah, like your peers or anybody you are comfortable with, so you exchange thoughts, you exchange feelings, you are more open with the people of the group, and you might be hesitating if you are just alone or you are not part of a group. Then a focus group is a group interview and is therefore less time consuming than one-to-one interviews. So if you want to interview, okay, and you have 4 individual respondents, and this is scenario 1, okay, and then you have a group in which you have 4 respondents, so which one is more time consuming? Obviously interviewing individually is more time consuming as compared to interviewing a group. Okay, the interview can probe and ask further questions as appropriate. So if you're in a group, you exchange thoughts, you talk, okay, and if you talk upon reasons, then you derive to more reasons, more things, so you can ask more questions, because in a qualitative research the interviews are not structured, okay, they are basically open-ended and they're unstructured, so you can probe and ask more questions, okay, just to clarify and add more things into your research. In focus groups, researchers can interview a group for the same cost as one, and thus are relatively cheap way to collect data. वही बात जो मैंने आपको प्रीवियसली बताई थी, 4 लोगों को अलग से इंटरव्यू करना, इट्स मोर टाइम कंज्यूमिंग देन इंटरव्यूइंग अ ग्रुप, ठीक है, एंड 4 लोगों को अलग अलग इंटरव्यू करना इज़ ऑल्सो मोर कॉस्टली. पूरा सेटअप दोबारा से रखना करना, ठीक है, दोबारा से टाइम निकालना, उनको दोबारा से इंटरव्यू करना, ठीक है, सो इट्स मोर कॉस्टली, जबकि आप 4 लोगों का एक ग्रुप बना के उनको इकट्ठा जो है वो इंटरव्यू कर सकते हो. Focus groups allow researchers to observe body language. This can tell us something about their feelings about the conversation and may also reveal whether they are telling the truth or not. ठीक है, if you are रिसर्चिंग अ ग्रुप, ठीक है. सो यू कैन ऑब्जर्व देयर बॉडी लैंग्वेज, ठीक है. फीलिंग्स आर ईजिली जज, ठीक है. वो आपस में जो कन्वर्जेशन कर रहे होते हैं आप उसको ऑब्जर्व कर सकते हो, ठीक है. और आप एक माइंड बना सकते हो कि वेदर दे आर टेलिंग द ट्रूथ और नॉट. Focus groups allow researchers to observe interaction between multiple participants, and this may yield interesting data which may not have arisen in one-to-one situation. As I've told you before, अच्छा these all points are interlinked if you see, ठीक है. अगर ग्रुप में इंडिविजुअल्स आपस में बात करते हैं, ठीक है, सो यू ऑब्जर्व दोज कन्वर्जेशन, ठीक है. आप उनका इंटरेक्शन को स्टडी करते हो, ठीक है. कुछ न्यू पॉइंट्स आपको मिल सकते हैं उनकी कन्वर्जेशन से, आपको कुछ न्यू पॉइंट्स मिल सकते हैं. कोई नई चीज़ जो है आप डिराइव कर सकते हो, कोई ऐसी बात आप जो है ऑब्जर्व कर सकते हो जो कि आपने जब पूछी आपको नहीं मिली, लेकिन जब रिस्पोंडेंट्स या पार्टिसिपेंट्स आपस में बात कर रहे होते हैं तो वो चीज़ आप पिक कर सकते हो, ठीक है. अब एक बंदे से अगर आप सिर्फ इंटरव्यू करते हो तो वो आप और इंटरव्यू ही होता है, ठीक है. तो उससे आपको इतना ज़्यादा इन्फॉर्मेशन नहीं मिलती है जितना आप जो है एक ग्रुप को स्टडी करने में आपको इन्फॉर्मेशन मिलती है. Focus groups may be particularly used for gaining information from children as they may feel reassured in the company of their peers and hence be more open and honest. अगर आपके फोकस ग्रुप में बच्चे हैं, अच्छा अभी सोर्स से बात नहीं हो रही है, ठीक है. इट्स एन ओपन क्वेश्चन, ठीक है. इट्स अ जनरल क्वेश्चन, सॉरी, ठीक है. सो अगर आप बच्चों के ऊपर रिसर्च कर रहे हो, ठीक है, तो बच्चे आपस में बैठते हैं अपने सेम एज के बच्चों के साथ, ठीक है. तो दे आर मोर ओपन, ठीक है. तो उससे भी आपको बहुत अच्छी जो है बहुत अच्छा डेटा कलेक्ट हो सकता है. इंटरप्रेटिविस्ट या फेमिनिस्ट यूज दिस मेथड बिकॉज इट गिव्स डिटेल्ड क्वालिटेटिव डेटा लीडिंग टू हायर वैलिडिटी. अभी इंटरप्रेटिविस्ट की बात हो रही थी, सो आई हैव क्लियरली टोल्ड यू व्हाट इज एन इंटरप्रेटिविस्ट अप्रोच. अब फेमिनिस्ट वो लोग हैं दैट बेसिकली टॉक्स अबाउट फीमेल्स, ठीक है. अब जाहिर सी बात है कि एक ग्रुप है उसमें 2 से 3 खवातीन हैं, ठीक है. तो वो आपस में क्या बातचीत कर रही हैं, ठीक है. तो उससे भी आपको बहुत ज़्यादा डेटा मिल सकता है, ठीक है, क्योंकि इस डेटा में सच्चाई होती है, ठीक है. और सच्चाई क्योंकि लोगों की थॉट्स, लोगों की फीलिंग्स इसमें बताई जा रही होती हैं, ठीक है. तो इसमें सच्चाई होती है एंड दैट विल हेल्प इन प्रोवाइडिंग एक्यूरेट डेटा, ठीक है. तो मूविंग बैक टुवर्ड्स द क्वेश्चन, ठीक है. तो 2 स्ट्रेंथ्स आपने बतानी थी, ठीक है. तो 2 स्ट्रेंथ्स आपने बताई और उसको फिर फर्दर आपने जो है वो एक्सप्लेन किया, ठीक है. तो आपको पता होना चाहिए कि फोकस ग्रुप्स एक्चुअली क्या होते हैं, ठीक है, और उनकी इंपॉर्टेंस क्या होती है. अच्छा, इन केस दिस इज समथिंग दैट यू माइट नॉट हैव स्टडीड, ठीक है. सो जस्ट ब्रेक आउट द वर्ड्स फोकस. What do you mean by focus? You are moving all of your you can say observations towards something, ठीक है. Group means not individual, a group of people, 3, 4, 5, ठीक है. So you are moving your observation towards studying more than 2 people, ठीक है. अब ये बात आपको पता है कि हम बात कर रहे हैं अभी किस चीज़ की, क्वालिटेटिव रिसर्च की बात कर रहे हैं, ठीक है. इंटरप्रेटिविस्ट अप्रोच की बात कर रहे हैं, ठीक है. सो यू कैन लिंक कि वी आर यूजिंग एन इंटरप्रेटिविस्ट अप्रोच, ठीक है. और इंटरप्रेटिविस्ट अप्रोच में हमें एक्यूरेट डेटा मिल सकता है, ठीक है, एंड दैट डेटा इज़ वैलिड, ठीक है. सो in case if you are not aware what are focus groups या आप क्या लिखोगे इंटरप्रेटिविस्ट अप्रोच के बारे में आपको पता है, ठीक है. यू कैन लिंक दैट थिंग विद दिस थिंग कि this is an interpretivist approach and you are able to get, like I'm telling you this point, this last point, ठीक है. this is an interpretivist approach and you are able to get accurate data by studying a group and you get a detailed information that is more accurate which leads to higher validity, ठीक है. सो इसमें आपका एक पॉइंट आ जाएगा, ठीक है. अच्छा, दूसरा आप जो है क्या कर सकते हो, इस पॉइंट को अगर हम देखें, आई हैव टोल्ड यू दैट आप ऑब्जर्व करते हो मोर देन वन पीपल, इट कैन बी अ ग्रुप ऑफ 2 या 2 से ज़्यादा, ठीक है। सो थोड़ा सा कॉमन सेंस लगाओगे, ठीक है। सो आपको ये पता चल सकता है कि एक ग्रुप में जब आप बैठते हो, ठीक है, अगर आप इफ़ यू हैव फ्रेंड्स, एक ग्रुप में आप बैठते हो, ठीक है, यू शेयर थिंग्स, यू शेयर थॉट्स, यू शेयर फीलिंग्स, ठीक है। सो दैट इज़ यू कैन से एक अलग इंटरेक्शन होता है मेंबर्स का आपस में, ठीक है। यू कैन गेट मोर डेटा, ठीक है, इट विल बी मोर ईजली, इट कैन बी ईजली ऑब्जर्व एज कम्पेयर टू स्टडिंग वन पर्सन, ठीक है। तो थोड़ा सा आप कॉमन सेंस लगाओगे इन केस अगर आपको नहीं आता, सो यू कैन गेट टू द आंसर, ओके। So this is basically a small trick in case if you don't understand what is a focus group and what are the advantages. Okay, so now let's start with question number 1, part E. Describe 2 strengths and 2 limitations of using field experiments in sociological research, and it's of 8 marks, which means that 2 strengths need to be explained, like 2 reasons, and then a brief description of those strengths, and then 2 limitations and a brief description of those limitations. So what strengths you can mention, and it's also mentioned in your marking scheme. First one is takes place in a real social setting, so it offers a chance to see real life interaction leading to higher validity than artificial lab experiments such as Milgram or Bandura. Okay, so it means that as you all know that laboratory में जब भी कोई experiments conduct हो रहे होते हैं, ठीक है, so it's basically a controlled environment, ठीक है. You have the power to control the things, ठीक है, and each and every aspect of that experiment is controlled, ठीक है. Whereas if you study things out of the lab, ठीक है, which means that in the field or in any natural setting, ठीक है, like physically you go out somewhere. For instance, I can give you an example, like you are a sociologist, ठीक है, and you want to study peoples of rural areas, ठीक है. So you will go and visit the rural areas, ठीक है. तो फिर वहाँ पे आप उनकी problems and root cause of their problems, or then you will be figuring out their solutions to the problems, ठीक है. तो ये basically क्या होते हैं, field experiments होते हैं, ठीक है. जब नेचुरल सेटिंग में आप जाके जो है लोगों को ऑब्जर्व करते हो, लोगों के ऊपर या लोगों के इश्यूज़ के ऊपर जो है वो आप रिसर्च करते हो, ठीक है. आई होप यू आर गेटिंग माई पॉइंट, ठीक है. सो इट स्टेट्स दैट फील्ड्स एक्सपेरिमेंट नेचुरल सेटिंग में होते हैं, ठीक है, एंड दे आर वेरी क्लोज टू रियल लाइफ, एंड यू गेट टू नो हाउ individuals behave in their real life, ठीक है. Whereas lab experiments are conducted in a lab, ठीक है, and the components are controlled. Field experiments में things are beyond a researcher's control, ठीक है. So this is strength, ठीक है. ज़्यादा higher validity क्यों है, क्योंकि वही बात जो कि इंटरप्रेटिविस्ट की हम यहाँ से लिंक करेंगे कि उनको एक्यूरेट डेटा मिलता है, उनको रियल डेटा मिलता है, ठीक है. क्योंकि लैब एक्सपेरिमेंट्स में चीज़ें कंट्रोल होती हैं, ठीक है, बायसनेस आ सकती है, ठीक है. यू कैन से कि बायसनेस इन सेंस के जो आई एम नॉट टॉकिंग अबाउट रिसर्चर बायस, ठीक है, आई एम टॉकिंग अबाउट के चीज़ें जब कंट्रोल में होती हैं ना तो रियल पिक्चर में वेरी, ठीक है, कि एक्चुअली क्या चीज़ थी, ठीक है, रियल पिक्चर में वेरी, ठीक है. दैट्स वाई सो दे आर नॉट, यू कैन से, a true representation of the actual thing. It says shows us how people behave in their natural surroundings, offering detailed and in-depth data. वही बात जो मैंने फर्स्ट पॉइंट में डिस्कस करी है कि एक नेचुरल सेटिंग होती है, नेचुरल इन्वायरमेंट होता है, लोगों को हम डीपली जो है वो उनको स्टडी कर सकते हैं, डिटेल में स्टडी कर सकते हैं, ठीक है। और यूजली यू कैन सी कि जो रिसर्चेस जो फील्ड रिसर्चेस होती हैं, ठीक है, वो यूजली बहुत प्रोलॉन्ग टाइम के लिए होती हैं, ठीक है, मतलब एकदम से दे आर नॉट एबल टू गेट डेटा, ठीक है। Then it is possible to do field experiments in large institutions, in schools or workplaces in which thousands of people interact, for example, which isn't possible in laboratory experiments. Um, Laboratory experiments में वही बात है that you have controlled aspects, ठीक है, and limitations काफ़ी हैं, ठीक है, जबकि the components are very limited in laboratory experiments. Whereas in field experiments, ठीक है, you can study a large number of people, ठीक है. For instance, like I told you an example of studying rural areas people, ठीक है, you go over there, you find a lot of people over there. If you are studying, for instance, people or children of the orphanage, ठीक है, या अंडर प्रिविलेज स्कूल्स, ठीक है, सो यू विल फाइंड अ लॉट ऑफ पीपल ओवर देयर, ठीक है, या आप किसी वर्क प्लेस के ऊपर आप स्टडी कर रहे हो तो वहाँ पे आपको ज़्यादा जो है वो लोग मिल सकते हैं. लाइक यू माइट गेट अ बिग सैम्पलिंग फ्रेम, ठीक है, बिग सैम्पल you can say take out from your sampling frame and you can do research. Researchers can manipulate the variables in the experiments to test and measure a hypothesis. Okay, so this means that researcher can add on any other interesting variable, okay, and then you can say conduct a research on that as well, okay, and like any other you can say variable that might fascinate the researcher, he might add that variable as well, or he might remove any variable also which he thinks that is not that suitable for his research. Then it states that it may have fewer ethical problems than laboratory experiments. Example, there may be less likelihood to experience harm. For instance, in laboratory experiments, you can say ethical issues arises. Okay, for instance, you are doing a research on animals or on human beings. Okay, so that person needs to be present over there. Okay, so the experiment might cause any harm to that person. ठीक है, लेकिन जो फील्ड एक्सपेरिमेंट्स हैं उसमें लाइक द रिसर्चर गेट इन्वॉल्व विद द रिस्पोंडेंट्स एंड दे मेक श्योर दैट रिस्पोंडेंट्स को कोई भी हार्म फेस ना करना पड़े. Okay, now moving on towards the limitations. Some forms of field experiment may have ethical issues if covert research is done. Rosenthal and Jacobson. अच्छा, field experiments में भी you can say कि ethical issues आते हैं. For instance, if you are, what is a covert research? Covert research is when the people that are being researched doesn't know that they are being researched, ठीक है, secretly research हो रही है, ठीक है, तो उसमें हो सकता है कि उनकी प्राइवेसी को एक्सप्लॉइट किया जा सकता है, ठीक है, क्योंकि दे डोंट नो कि रिसर्च हो रही है, ठीक है, तो उनसे कुछ चीज़ें ऐसी मालूम करी जा सकती हैं या ऑब्जर्व करी जा सकती हैं जो कि अनएथिकल हो, ठीक है. Variables cannot be controlled as closely as in lab experiments, resulting in lower reliability. ठीक है, एज आई टोल्ड यू बिफोर कि लैब एक्सपेरिमेंट्स के अंदर जो है वेरिएबल्स कंट्रोल्ड होते हैं, ठीक है, द रिसर्चर हैज़ कंट्रोल ऑन ईच एंड एवरी थिंग, जबकि फील्ड एक्सपेरिमेंट्स में ऑल ऑफ द कंपोनेंट्स और वेरिएबल्स आर बियॉन्ड कंट्रोल, ठीक है, तो कोई भी मिसहैप, कोई भी कोइंसिडेंस, कोई भी इंसिडेंट पेश आ सकता है, ठीक है, जिसकी वजह से रिसर्च जो है वो अपनी रिलायबिलिटी को जो है वो लूज़ कर सकती है. लाइक वो रिसर्च फिर किसी और रिसर्चर के लिए की रिसर्च के लिए यूज़ नहीं की जा सकती, ठीक है. ओके, नेक्स्ट वी हैव इट मे क्रिएट ऑब्जर्वर हॉथॉर्न इफेक्ट. द ग्रुप्स में चेंज देयर बिहेवियर इफ़ दे आर अवेयर दे आर बीइंग स्टडीड. जैसे मैंने आपको बताया कि फील्ड एक्सपेरिमेंट्स में कोवर्ट रिसर्च का भी एक नुकसान है, ठीक है, कि एथिकल इश्यूज आ सकते हैं। और अगर ग्रुप को पता हो, ठीक है, कि रिसर्च हो रही है, तो फिर क्या होगा, हॉथरॉन इफेक्ट हो सकता है, विच मीन्स दैट जब फॉर इंस्टेंस इफ़ यू गेट टू नो दैट यू आर बीइंग रिसर्च, तो आपका बिहेवियर चेंज हो जाएगा, ठीक है। जब तक आपको नहीं पता होता है यू एक्ट नॉर्मली, ठीक है, थोड़े बहुत चेंजेस बिहेवियर में ज़रूर आते हैं। ओके, इट मे नॉट बी रिप्रेजेंटेटिव इफ ओनली वन ऑर्गेनाइजेशन ग्रुप इज स्टडीड, देयरफॉर डिफ़िकल्ट टू मेक जनरलाइजेशंस, ठीक है। फील्ड एक्सपेरिमेंट्स, जैसे अगर मैंने आपकी एग्जांपल ली है कि अगर मैं फॉर इंस्टेंस कराची यूनिवर्सिटी के स्टूडेंट्स के ऊपर एक्सपेरिमेंट कर रही हूँ, ठीक है, उनके स्टूडेंट्स को स्टडी कर रही हूँ, ठीक है, तो उनका बिहेवियर, वो किस तरीके से अपनी यूनिवर्सिटी को देखते हैं, वो किस तरीके से स्टाफ को जज करते हैं, रैंक करते हैं, ठीक है, दैट विल वेरी एज़ कम्पेयर टू अदर यूनिवर्सिटीज़, ठीक है। सो वी कैन नॉट से कि कराची यूनिवर्सिटी के स्टूडेंट्स जो बोलते हैं, ठीक है, वही कुछ जो है वो बाकी यूनिवर्सिटीज़ के स्टूडेंट्स भी बोल सकते हैं, ठीक है। सो वी कैन नॉट मेक जनरलाइजेशंस, एक तरीके से इट इज़ कस्टमाइज्ड व्यूज़। It may be difficult to replicate all the variables and therefore field experiments are low in reliability. मैंने अपनी रिसर्च में जिन जिन वेरिएबल्स के ऊपर काम किया हुआ होगा, ठीक है, इन फील्ड एक्सपेरिमेंट्स, तो ज़रूरी नहीं कि वो कोई और रिसर्चर भी उन्हीं वेरिएबल्स के ऊपर काम करे, ठीक है। सो दैट रिसर्च इज़ नॉट दैट रिलायबल, ठीक है। सो यहाँ पे ये बात बताई जा रही है, दूसरा रिसर्चर होगा, दूसरे वेरिएबल्स के ऊपर काम करेगा, एक आध हो सकता है कि सेम हो जाए, बट वो अपने तरीके से रिसर्च लेके चलेगा, वो अपने तरीके से डिफरेंट वेरिएबल्स के ऊपर रिसर्च करेगा। Practical issues, a field experiment may involve more cost than some other methods due to the necessity, for example, for a skilled researcher. कोई भी आम बंदा जो है वो उठ के जाके फील्ड एक्सपेरिमेंट्स नहीं कर सकता जब तक यू डोंट पोजेस द प्रोफेशनल रिसर्चर स्किल्स, ठीक है, एंड हाउ यू कैन अडॉप्ट टू चेंजेस, ठीक है, बिकॉज एज आई हैव टोल्ड यू दैट फील्ड एक्सपेरिमेंट्स आर टोटली अनप्रिडिक्टेबल, ठीक है। So you need to be very professional and skillful with this regards. Some field experiments may be longitudinal, example Rosenthal and Jacobson, and hence are time consuming. As I have told you कि laboratory experiments से अगर हम compare करते हैं, laboratory experiments कुछ घंटों के होते हैं, ठीक है, जबकि field experiments might be longitudinal, यानी एक साल 6 महीने तक भी prolong हो सकते हैं, ठीक है। So it's very time consuming, एकदम से you cannot come to the conclusions. Okay, one mark you will get for strength and that you have identified. जब तक आपने दो strengths नहीं बताए होंगे, उसको explain नहीं किया होगा, and same goes for the limitation thing. Question number 1F, explain why longitudinal studies can be useful for sociological research. As I have told you कि longitudinal studies क्या होती हैं, वो स्टडीज़ जो कि लॉन्ग पीरियड ऑफ टाइम के लिए जो है वो कंडक्ट होती हैं। आपके मार्किंग स्कीम में जो आंसर्स मेंशन है हम उनको डिस्कस करते हैं। बिकॉज इट शोज चेंज ओवर टाइम, दिस अलाउज रिसर्चर्स टू स्पॉट ट्रेंड्स एंड पैटर्न्स। मैंने आपको बताया ये 6 महीने, साल, 1.5 साल तक चल सकती हैं, ठीक है, एंड रिसर्चर कैन नॉट जस्ट क्विकली कम टू द सॉल्यूशंस, ठीक है, एंड रीच आउट अ पॉसिबल कंक्लूजन, ठीक है, तो लंबा टाइम होता है। ही कैन फिगर आउट द चेंजेस, ठीक है, ग्रुप्स के बिहेवियर के अंदर चेंजेस देख सकता है, ठीक है, या कोई नई चीज़ें अगर हुई हैं तो उसको भी स्टडी कर सकता है। देन बिकॉज इट इज़ पॉसिबल टू आइडेंटिफाई सोशल फैक्टर्स विच हैव कॉज्ड चेंज, दिस इन टर्न इनेबल रिसर्च टू इन्फॉर्म सोशल पॉलिसी। हो सकता है कि सोशल फैक्टर्स में चेंज आया हो, ठीक है, यू कैन से कि सोशल फैक्टर्स में मोर पीपल ऐड ऑन, फॉर इंस्टेंस, ठीक है, उनके टेस्ट में डिफरेंस हो सकते हैं, प्रेफरेंसेस में डिफरेंसेस आ सकते हैं, ठीक है। because the participants have led to show commitment to the research over a time, so it is more likely to be valid. अच्छा, अगर participants जो हैं willingly रिसर्च में पार्ट ले रहे हैं, ठीक है, और वो कमिटेड हैं कि वो लॉन्ग टाइम तक एग्री करते हैं कि वो रिसर्च में पार्ट लेते रहेंगे, ठीक है, सो इट विल बिकम मोर वैलिड, ठीक है, एंड देयर आर मोर चांसेस कि उनको एक्यूरेट इन्फॉर्मेशन मिलती रहे. Researchers are committed to the project and hence are more likely to develop a rapport, with participants, enhancing validity. Researchers भी अगर committed रहें, क्योंकि as I have told you कि long term research होती है, ठीक है, so they will be able to build a bonding with the participants, ठीक है, वही बात कि accurate data जो है वो researcher को मिलता रहेगा. It allows greater insight over time which may lead to वर्स्तेहन high validity. वही बात हमने जो अभी प्रीवियसली डिस्कस करी है कि ज़्यादा टाइम के लिए अगर रिसर्च होगी, इन डेप्थ नॉलेज मिलती रहेगी, चेंजेस के बारे में रिसर्चर जो है वो पढ़ता रहेगा. Because it allows a researcher to use qualitative and quantitative methods, it can glean all the benefits of triangulation, more holistic picture. ठीक है, अब ये जो हम बात करें लॉन्गिट्यूडनल स्टडी की, इसमें वी कैन मर्ज बोथ क्वालिटेटिव रिसर्च मेथड्स एंड क्वांटिटेटिव मेथड्स एज वेल. ठीक है, फोकस ग्रुप्स ले लिया, उनके ऊपर हमने स्ट्रक्चर्ड इंटरव्यूज़ कर लिए, ठीक है, या पार्टिसिपेंट ऑब्जर्वेशन कर ली, उनके ऊपर अनस्ट्रक्चर्ड इंटरव्यूज़ के साथ साथ हमने फॉर इंस्टेंस यू कैन से कि स्ट्रक्चर्ड इंटरव्यूज़ भी कंडक्ट कर लिए. ठीक है, सो वी कैन मर्ज both research methods. Because subjects act naturally as they are used to being studied, this can increase the validity. Again, same point of validity. Natural setting में research हो रही होती है, ठीक है, और accurate information मिल रही होती है. That's why we can say that it's more valid. Question number 1, part G. To what extent are official statistics useful for sociological research? So this is an extensive 15 marks question, okay, in which you need to write both sides. First, you need to present your arguments in favor of the statement that yes, official statistics are useful for sociological research, and then on the second side, you need to tell that arguments against that official statistics are not useful for sociological research. जाहिर सी बात है कि you might just not have enough points for writing one side, ठीक है, so you need to think that 15 marks है, so you should be presenting two sides for this argument. Okay, and if you just present the one side, like if you have just written arguments for, or if you have just written arguments against, then you are not going to score higher than 8 marks. Okay, so you need to write both sides of the arguments. Secondly, after writing both sides, you need to present a conclusion. Okay, the conclusion should be very comprehensive, and so this is how you are going to write down the answer for this type of 15 marks question. So let's check what are the arguments for official statistics are useful for sociological research. They are often large scale and take account of most of the research population, therefore generalizations are possible. Usually official statistics are not conducted on small scale samples, okay? They are usually conducted over a very large population. That's why you can easily generalize the result. For instance, you can say कि अगर कोई official statistics जो है वो for instance किसी एक कराची के लोगों के ऊपर अप्लाई हुआ है, ठीक है, so you can say that हो सकता है कि the results are also applicable on the people of Lahore, ठीक है, to some extent. Okay, because they are readily available, often free of charge and on the internet, and therefore cheap and easy to use. You can easily have access to these official statistics. They are available on the internet, and uh, you can easily download it or go through it, and they're also easy to use. Governments spend much time and money collecting official statistics, example the census. So the statistics are beyond the means of most primary research budgets. Usually, official statistics contain such data जिसके ऊपर रिसर्च आसानी से हो जाती है, बिकॉज ऑफिशियल स्टैटिस्टिक्स इज़ अ सेकेंडरी डेटा. एंड व्हाट इज़ अ सेकेंडरी डेटा? एक प्राइमरी डेटा होता है जिसमें यू नीड टू डू रिसर्च फ्रॉम स्क्रैच. आपको खुद सैम्पल जनरेट करना होता है, आपको खुद वेरिएबल्स ढूंढने होते हैं, आपको फिर खुद हाइपोथेसिस जो है वो जनरेट करना होता है, फिर रिसर्च करनी होती है, डेटा कलेक्ट करना होता है. बट ऑफिशियल स्टैटिस्टिक्स के ऊपर ऑलरेडी यू कैन से कि एक हद तक रिसर्च हुई भी होती है, ठीक है, एंड यू हैव होल ऑफ द डेटा. सो ईजिली रिसर्चर कैन यूज़ इट फॉर हिज रिसर्च पर्पज़. एंड सो जो इनिशियल कॉस्ट होती है फॉर द रिसर्च, ठीक है, सो यू डोंट फेस दैट. ओके, देन वी हैव, okay, as they are usually produced by research that is well planned and organized using large samples, they are likely to be valid, reliable and representative. ठीक है. सो यूजली अगर आप पॉपुलेशन सेंसस कंडक्ट कर रहे हो, ठीक है, तो आप बहुत केयरलेसली नहीं करोगे, ठीक है. आप कोशिश ये करोगे कि बहुत केयरफुली करो, ठीक है, एंड you might be avoiding errors, ठीक है, in your research, ठीक है. that's why usually जो results official statistics से आपको मिलते हैं, they are valid, ठीक है. it can be used for other research purposes and usually large sample होता है, ठीक है. so the results are usually representative or you can say generalized. okay, they are often part of longitudinal research, so they show changes over time. This makes it possible to identify trends. What is longitudinal research? Longitudinal research is, it's a research type in which you are studying a group of people over a long period of time. ठीक है, जब आप किसी को रिसर्च करते हो फॉर 6 months, 1 year and so on, ठीक है, so you tend to identify changes in behavior of that group, changes in taste, preferences, thoughts of that group, ठीक है. so basically official statistics are kind of longitudinal research, so you can find out changes from time to time. Then we have, they are useful because they allow comparisons to be made, such as between men and women or between different areas of a country. जैसे for instance, you have certain official statistics related to Karachi, and then you have certain official statistics related to Lahore or Islamabad. So the results can be compared, ठीक है. Or for instance, you have certain official statistics regarding behavior of women or uh, educational achievements of men in Pakistan, sorry, in Karachi, and then you are comparing it with those of Peshawar or those of any other city. Okay, so you can easily, you can say, make comparisons between group of people or different areas of a country. Okay, positivists recommend using official statistics, arguing they are objective and help us identify social facts. As you know that positivists are usually take objective approach, okay, they don't go into deep details. That's why you can say कि official statistics is an objective approach and it is based on statistics and figures. That's why you can say कि positivists are in favor of using official statistics. They are generally gathered by methods deemed to be reliable, so therefore data collection is repeatable for useful comparisons. As we have told before, that you can its official statistics consist of large sample, okay, so the results can be generalized. Further, It's reliable because it's kind of a secondary data that can be used. If I'm a researcher, I can use it. Okay, another researcher can also use it. Okay, so that's why it's reliable. Okay, now you are going to say on the contrary. Okay, like you are providing arguments against. Your official statistics are not important in sociological research. Okay, so the iceberg theory data that goes unreported, unrecorded, example illegal immigrations, may mean that population data is inaccurate. Yeah, so there can be certain types of data that are not reported in these statistics. ठीक है, या they are not recorded. लाइक यहाँ पे इन्होंने एग्जांपल दिए ऑफ इलीगल इमिग्रेशन. बहुत सारे ऐसे डोमेस्टिक वायलेंस केसेस भी हो सकते हैं, ठीक है, दैट आर नॉट रिपोर्टेड. ठीक है, सो एक तरीके से यू कैन से कि देयर इज़ अ लैक. ठीक है, थोड़ा सा डेटा हो सकता है कि इनएक्यूरेट हो बिकॉज इट्स नॉट टेलिंग द ट्रू पिक्चर ऑफ द थिंग. Political interference, government findings are presented in a way that is acceptable to the body funding the research. Biasness occurs because usually they are government based. Okay, that's why they tend to favor government more. Okay. Definitions of key terms used, example unemployment can change over time, making comparisons less accurate. अनएम्प्लॉयमेंट रेट्स वेरी. ठीक है, अगर इन्फ्लेशन ज़्यादा होती है, ठीक है, अनएम्प्लॉयमेंट रेट्स माइट इंक्रीज. ठीक है, इफ़ देयर इज़ इकोनॉमिक बूम देयर इज़ मोर एम्प्लॉयमेंट. ठीक है, सो यू कैन से कि अगर ऑलरेडी एक स्टडी हो चुकी है, फॉर इंस्टेंस 2017 या 2016 में कोई स्टडी हुई है, ठीक है, कोई स्टैटिस्टिक्स आपके पास उसके मौजूद हैं, उस वक्त हो सकता है कि बहुत अच्छी एम्प्लॉयमेंट रेट्स हों, बट 2019 2020 में कोविड की वजह से द अनएम्प्लॉयमेंट रेट्स इंक्रीज. ठीक है, सो वी कैन से दैट द रिजल्ट्स आर नॉट ईजिली कंपेयर्ड. ठीक है, बिकॉज 2016 में अलग पिक्चर थी कंट्री की, 2019 में अलग पिक्चर है कंट्री की. Statistics take a long time to compile, therefore may become quickly out of date. Again, एकदम से we cannot jump to the statistics to the conclusions. ठीक है, so it takes time to you can say compile all of the data. Okay, and there are more chances के डेटा जो है वो डिप्लीट हो जाए या it becomes out of date. It's not current. Okay, interpretativists are likely to criticize their lack of validity, arguing that official statistics might tell us what but not why. Basically interpretativists are like saying कि tell us the reason. ठीक है, कि एक चीज़ अगर हो रही है तो क्यों हो रही है. ठीक है, it's not just about the reason, it's providing justifications. ठीक है, so they are more towards in-depth study. ठीक है, so they are saying कि it's just telling the reasons but it's not telling कि why it is happening. Okay, okay, so these are the possible arguments against official statistics, saying that it's not that useful. So you can see that we have more points in favor that official statistics is good for sociological research. ठीक है, and it's more helpful for the researchers. ठीक है, so yet we cannot oversee the disadvantages of official statistics, but you can say that because you need to provide a comprehensive conclusion, so you need to tell that the advantages outweighs the disadvantages. That's why we can say that official statistics are more useful for the researchers because because it offers generalization. Okay, they are readily available, so it reduces the initial primary cost for research. Okay, they can easily be accessed, and you can say okay, the results are um, you can say that the results allow comparisons. Okay, so this is how you are going to wrap up your essay of 15 marks. So I hope you understand it. Okay, and in case if you have any queries, you can WhatsApp me on my given number, and I will be there to facilitate you. So this is all for this video. So see you soon with another video. Don't forget to subscribe my channel and like my video, and do share it with your friends. Okay, take care. Bye.